Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for downloading episode 102 of We Got This with Mark and Hal. If you're going to be in the Pensacola area the weekend after Valentine's Day, I'm going to be there too. Me, Hal Lublin, as part of Pensacon. So wherever you are in that Florida Panhandle area, come on down to Pensacon. I'm going to be one of the guests there. I'll be signing stuff. I'll be on panels. I'm going to be hanging out with some of my favorite pro wrestlers. It's going to be an amazing weekend. You can go to pensacon.com, pensacon.com to get tickets and to see more information all about that weekend. It is going to be a fantastic time. And again, it is all going down Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, February 17th, 18th, and 19th. So come check it out. But for now, please enjoy episode 102 of We Got This with Mark and Hal. Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all. Warner Brothers or Disney?
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcast should have a theme song. Podcast should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
What's up, Doc? Oh, we both did it.
We did. You can say that, and then I'll say, oh, hi. Oh, how you doing?
How many of these characters do you know how to do their voices?
I mean, I know what their voices are. I don't know, Mickey, Goofy.
Nope, say them as them. Mickey, go.
Oh, Mickey. Oh, Goofy. Oh, and then, Pluto's just like,
That's pretty good, Pluto.
I can only do angry Donald Duck. I can't talk like him. We've talked about this before. There was an audition that came up to play Donald Duck. And I watched YouTube videos. I know it's about how you place your tongue. And as much as I try, I know you can do it. So why don't you do it? Yeah. And then see, that's good. All I can do is that.
I'm pretty unintelligent.
That's the only part I can do.
I love me some Disney characters.
Yes.
What about the Warner? Does Warner Brothers have a big five? Like Disney has a big five. Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Pluto, Goofy. Done.
Yes.
Yes. You can tell I've said that many times, having worked at Disneyland. Oh yeah. Full disclosure. I used to work at Disneyland for those who, have not listened to much of the show.
Yes.
It does keep coming up.
And as you know from the opening, we are doing Warner Brothers versus Disney. We have set ground rules because Warner Brothers animation versus Disney animation covers so much ground that we're keeping it to animated shorts produced before 1970. We are not including comic and cartoon properties that were acquired later on. So for example, if we were looking at it holistically, everything all together with Warner Brothers, all of a sudden they've acquired Scooby-Doo and Tom and Jerry, which won a ton of Oscars, in the 40s and 50s. So we are not including that. We are not including Freakazoid or Batman the Animated Series or the Animaniacs or Kim Possible or Elena of Avalor. Nothing that was produced post 1970.
Much to the dismay of our researcher, Kate McManus.
Yes.
Kate, we apologize that there is a great big spreadsheet with a lot of stuff after 1970.
Yes. But we're also not going to handicap Disney because they were so prolific in their production pre-1970. We're not including animated films. So that includes all the princesses, all of those characters, Tinkerbell, even though they appeared, on television, they were originated in film. So we are not counting them in the canon. Now,
when we talk about Disney characters versus Warner Brothers characters, it's the ones that everybody knows.
Exactly.
It's the Disney Big Five. It's, Bugs and Daffy and Porky and Yosemite Sam and Foghorn Leghorn over on the Looney Tunes side.
And the Tasmanian Devil.
I know you had to get that in there.
And Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner.
Absolutely. There's lots and lots of characters to talk about, but that's one of the criteria we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
Now, do you feel, Mark, well, let me take your temperature, which way you're leaning right now.
Right now, even as a person who is a huge Disney file, and that will play into one of our, criteria later, I feel more connected to Looney Tunes than to the Disney shorts.
Yeah, I do think there's something that happens when you're very young where Disney pulls you in. Because Disney is very accessible. And they produce really funny stuff. I mean, the Goofy shorts from the 40s, the 30s and 40s.
Physical comedy genius.
Hilarious. So well done. And, you know, Donald Duck as a character is great. There was a short with Pluto where he has a dream that he's on trial and he's sent to hell to be tortured. And it made me cry as a child because I love dogs. And you didn't want to see a dog, go to hell to get Donald back. I'm assuming it's just the Orpheus Descending story. Yes, that's all it was. No, they show it at the cinema, the Main Street Cinema at Disneyland, and it still gets me emotionally. So those Disney shorts do have substance to them.
Absolutely. And one of the ones playing, just a shout out to, as the former mayor of Main Street.
Yes.
One of my favorite things to do was to walk and, wander around inside the cinema to watch the old Disney shorts. My favorite was, I don't know what the name of it is, but it's a bunch of the Disney characters playing polo with a bunch of famous movie stars of the day. So there was Clark Gable and Charlie Chaplin and Laurel and Hardy and the Marx Brothers and, all kinds of fun characters in there. I believe, Harpo was riding an ostrich in this game of polo.
Yes. I know the one you're talking about. It's such
Great
a shame
old
you
black and white cartoon.
Had to resign in disgrace from that mayorship.
I know. Look, a scandal's a scandal. And, I can apologize for years. I think it may mess with my, gubernatorial run, but hopefully people have a short memory or at least a good capacity for forgiveness.
You're going to be the governor of Fantasyland.
That's right.
I'm going to bring jobs back to Mickey's Toontown.
Oh, it's all about jobs. All right.
There is an age, though, I was going to say, where you transition to Warner Brothers. And it's when you reach that more precocious, curious, like, ain't I a stinker phase of your life. And there is something to the Warner Brothers that just feels like you graduate to Warner Brothers. That being said, and I grew up like a Warner Brothers kid. Like I love Disney, always loved Disney. There's something about Warner Brothers that I was drawn to more, but as I have gotten older and really gotten back into Disneyland and the Disney films and the Disney Renaissance that started in 89 with Little Mermaid, it has sort of leveled that playing field for me where I look back on those animated shorts, several of which I have on DVD, much more fondly, and I appreciate them a lot more.
Are you saying you appreciate the Disney ones after watching the canon of films, going back to those? Or are you saying you would have been a Disney person or looking at the Looney Tunes catalog?
No, I'm saying going back to Disney and looking back to the catalog
Disney
now.
Catalog. Gotcha.
Yeah, right. I appreciate it more. So it's not as easy a choice for me to make.
Right. There are, the more I think about it, it's funny. I always think, well, sure, Mickey Mouse cartoons or Bugs Bunny cartoons. Those are just the two main characters. And I think, I'm sorry, as a, former and frequent Disney, cast member, I feel like Bugs Bunny has it on Mickey Mouse all the way. But then I look at the cartoons and first of all, there's so many more Donald Duck cartoons than there are any other. And Donald Duck cartoons are hilarious to me. Maybe it's because Mickey is so nice and Mickey is what we all ought to be. I mean, he started mean. In Steamboat Willie, Mickey was, mean, but now he's become such a corporate icon mascot of all that is family that it feels a little toothless. Donald Duck has always been who we are. Right. Mickey got is who we want to be.
Temper.
Donald's who we are.
Yeah. He's got a bad temper. He is alternately an okay uncle and a terrible uncle. I mean, he has a rough relationship with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. He has two very interesting uncles, both of whom are pre-1970s. Scrooge McDuck in 67, who has certainly become more prominent because of DuckTales. So he was always ever present, and the idea of him swimming around in his vault full of money was always there, but he didn't really, I don't think, take off until later on. Now, Ludwig von Drake, his smart uncle,
Mm-hmm.
was a little bit more instrumental in the Disney world because he was part of the Wonderful World of Color and sang the Spectrum song.
I don't know. I would argue that Scrooge McDuck is more important than Ludwig von Drake in the Disney canon. Glasgow City Council in 2007 named Scrooge McDuck to its list of famous Glaswegians.
Now, do you think if it were 1971 that they would add him, or the fact that he was the star of DuckTales, a very successful series, and a movie afterwards, do you think that helped him become more prominent?
I think it was probably based on his performance as Ebenezer Scrooge in Mickey's Christmas Carol, which honestly, I think he was snubbed by the Academy.
And that was 1981. So this is post 1970. It becomes more difficult when you have that cutoff.
So while we seem to be digging into the characters, which it feels like we are doing currently, let's go ahead. We've talked a little about Donald Duck. We've talked a little bit about his extended family, Scrooge McDuck and Ludwig von Drake. I know you're a big Ludwig von Drake fan and wanted to keep the cutoff point late enough that he could be included in it.
Well, he's an important character, and of course is voiced by Paul Frees, who's also the voice of the Haunted Mansion and many other great characters and attractions and the Disney family. One of the
absolute legends. You've also got his girlfriend Daisy Duck, introduced in 1937. Donald was introduced in 1934. And Huey, Dewey, and Louie, his nephews, who were introduced in 1938. Who Donald Duck becomes Margaret Dumont to their Marx Brothers more often than not. If Margaret Dumont did not have any decorum.
Yes.
Daisy, I don't know much about except that she's very sweet. That's like, there's not really.
Yes.
Daisy is just like the epitome of joy and kindness. As is Minnie Mouse. Minnie Mouse doesn't have much of an edge to her. She's sort of a damsel in distress.
No, there is a larger issue in both of these cartoon companies, especially when you look at it just in the shorts, that it's a sausage party primarily. The female characters they bring in are just sort of to counterbalance and be the sweet side.
Yeah, the only one I can think of on the Looney Tunes side is the old maid hen.
Henrietta
that Foghorn Leghorn messes with. Cause Foghorn Leghorn is a real jerk.
Yes, he is. He's a really terrible character.
He's really mean. If Donald Duck provides the edge to the Disney cartoons, Goofy is the one that provides the slapstick.
Yes, the Goofy is a great character. Of course, there's the idea that inexplicably he is a completely sentient speaking dog as opposed to Pluto, who is a regular dog. But
let's not think too much about that.
Yeah. Now you've had Goofy, Donald, and Mickey working together as ghost hunters. They're the sort of the three amigos. Even though there are the other three amigos with Donald and the rooster.
Oh, those are the three caballeros.
Yeah, the three caballeros. But really, like the holy trinity of those three characters are Mickey, Goofy, and Donald. Goofy's instructional shorts, where it's all about modern living, are fantastic. Whether it's him using gym equipment and on a set of rings flying through his wall and the wall of the apartment above him, so he keeps just going wee, wee, wee.
Those are that I think maybe that on the Disney side is maybe I just like the slapstick is my absolute favorite series, and Wile E. Coyote on the Looney Tunes side is my favorite series on that side. Okay,
interesting.
Because it's just cartoon characters getting hurt.
Yes.
I feel bad saying that. Wile E. Coyote deserves it. I don't think Goofy deserves being as hurt as he gets.
No, he's more klutz. He's like more fun klutzy, as opposed to Wile E. Coyote, who's evil and getting his comeuppance. So absolutely. And then there's Tom and Jerry, which is, it's probably good they're not included in this because you know what distinction they have, right?
I do not.
In those cartoons, they're the only cartoons where after a violent act is perpetrated on Tom, he screams bloody murder. So if you dip his tail and set it on fire, he screams like it is the last breath he will ever exhale. And you don't think about it as a child watching it because it's just so funny, but it is the only cartoon where there's some consequence to the violence in terms of, oh, that character feels pain. I mean, you can take a shotgun to Daffy Duck's face and knock his bill around to the backside and he just goes,
he'll just move it around.
This means war. Yeah. He just spins the bill back around.
And now I have images of Wile E. Coyote just slumping away as an accordion.
Yes. And that's the later Chuck Jones. I mean, to me, it's later.
The Chuck Jones era of, well, we'll get to it. We're on Disney right now. Have we covered the main characters for Disney?
I mean, I think Mickey, I know that he's very tightly guarded in terms of copyright and they're very controlling of that character. And I know he's changed to become a lot more wholesome over time, but you can't discount how important a character he is in pop culture and how important Steamboat Willie is for being the first, animated short with sound. And then he also speaks for the first time in a Silly Symphonies, because you had the Looney Tunes from Warner Brothers and the Silly Symphonies from Disney with the haunted house, where the first thing that Mickey ever says in any animated short is, "Who, me?" Because the skeleton tells him to play the piano.
Ah, and it was Walt Disney's voice, yes?
Yes, that's correct.
I feel like this, Mickey Mouse, we are going to get to very extensively when we get to another one of our criteria later on.
Okay, that's fair.
So let's move on to the, Looney Tunes characters, of which there are way more, it feels.
So do you not want to talk about like Pegleg Pete or Chip and Dale?
Oh, I forgot. I can't believe I forgot Pegleg Pete and Chip and Dale. And Clarabelle Cow, you're right. There are three minor characters, though Chip and Dale, I would argue, are a little more well-known than Pegleg Pete and Clarabelle Cow nowadays.
Yes, although Pegleg Pete
kept going.
Pegleg Pete was in DuckTales and he was in Goof Troop and House of Mouse.
And he was, I believe, robbed from the Oscars the year that he played the Ghost of Christmas Future in Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Well, you really love Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Yeah, I really do. Whose grave is that? Why, yours, Ebenezer.
Yeah, he's great. And he was important in those early, he says he was the foil to Mickey.
Yes.
So, you can't discount him. Clarabelle Cow was more of a minor character, although she's hilarious looking.
Yes. And what Clarabelle Cow always seemed to, just show up at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Like, I just always remember Clarabelle Cow in these old ones. Mickey would be running away from Pegleg Pete and he would wind up, like running under Clarabelle Cow's legs and her going, "Ooh,
ooh, yeah."
That's all I remember about Clarabelle Cow is that she was always in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yes. And here's an odd fact from our research. Apparently, even though she is a minor character in the Disney animated universe, she's apparently a big deal in Italy. And I don't know why. I don't know what makes her such a big character there.
Well, in cartoons that are primarily in English language, having a character that just goes, "Woo!"
The universal language. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. I will point out something else about Pegleg Pete, going back to him quickly.
Please.
1925, first character created. So, or oldest villain in this, in the group. I don't know if he was with Oswald as the villain or what, but of the Disney canon, he's the oldest character.
Yes.
It looks like. Or of this research, he's the oldest character, I should say.
Yes, that is true.
All right. So let's go on to, Chip and Dale. The Chip and Dale are fun. I feel like they've got a bit of they're like Pluto's Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Yes.
They're the ones they just torture poor Pluto. Which makes them a lot of fun.
Can we talk about Pluto for a second?
Yeah, how did we miss talking about Pluto?
Because I love Pluto. Pluto is, first of all, here's another thing about Mickey Mouse. As nice as he is, he's not a good dog owner. Pluto is underfed. You can see his ribs all the time. His collar doesn't even fit. If he jumps into water, a bunch of fleas jump off of him. He's probably got mange. He's got his teeth, like somehow Mickey has had his teeth replaced with human teeth.
And he's also the only character who you can't understand what he's saying.
Yeah. But he does, there is a lot of, Pluto's job is to be tortured. Whether it's by Chip and Dale, because he's hunting them down, which of course, why wouldn't they defend themselves? Or if like they're on a hunting trip and he gets shot, or it seems like just he's constantly paying for the crime of being a dog.
Yes.
Like that is his greatest offense. So I don't think I'm a Pluto apologist. I just feel a lot of sympathy for him. I think he's an adorable character, and I had a stuffed Pluto that I loved so much, and then I lost it I left it in a hotel room or something on a trip, and I had nightmares about it for months.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
I had the Pluto hat from Disney World when I was a kid. Yeah. I loved that.
Yeah.
And also Pluto loses points because he's no longer a planet. Let's move on to the Looney Tunes collection of characters.
Sure.
The big one, introduced in 1940, the official mascot of Warner Brothers, Bugs Bunny.
Yes.
Now Bugs Bunny was the perfect, I think Bugs Bunny is the perfect cartoon character.
Really?
Yeah, he exists for no reason other than chaos. And cartoons exist for no reason other than chaos. And his chaos will sometimes come in physical form, but usually it is his mouth that does all of the work. And he's changed his look through the years. He's not much like Mickey Mouse and all the other characters have. And I think the Chuck Jones version of Bugs Bunny and his expressiveness, I love Bugs Bunny so much. So, and I love that, Mickey was, oh boy. And Bugs Bunny was, what's up, Doc? There's so much more menace in that.
Yes. He did make me want to eat carrots. And I don't I hate the sound of people eating food. I do not like it. There are Carl's Jr. commercials. If you're not familiar with Carl's Jr., it's a burger chain, very prominent in Southern California. And their ads feature like a supermodel, like a Paris Hilton or whoever, eating one of their burgers, like they're washing a car or whatever. And then they start eating a burger. And it's the grossest eating. It's just like, it's just nasty. But the sound of him chewing on a carrot is, for some reason, is like, it gives me happy memories because it makes me think of his cartoons.
Yeah, it's, and that is, I don't know if that was the Foley guys or if that was Mel Blanc.
Right.
Shout out to Mel Blanc.
Yes.
Who voiced all of the male, or the vast majority, I'm not sure if there are small ones that he didn't, of, the Looney Tunes universe. These characters, the idea that all of these characters came out of one mouth is mind-blowing to me.
Yes. Yeah, he is, a legend among legends.
Mm-hmm. The greatest voiceover artist of all time, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's pretty, it's pretty hard to argue otherwise. Yeah, there are so many great dynamic relationships in Warner Brothers. This is really about, there's a yin for every yang. So Bugs Bunny faces off with Elmer Fudd. Bugs Bunny faces off with Daffy Duck. Tweety and Sylvester are in their Dance Forever. Pepe Le Pew and the cat who mistakenly falls down a white pole that's just been painted have their dance. Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny. Gossamer and Bugs Bunny. Really, Bugs Bunny has a really large enemy list.
Yeah.
Who are his friends?
It is, his enemies are people who deserve it, which is one thing I love about Bugs Bunny.
Sure.
Is that it's someone who has either done him personally wrong, or someone who in the grand scheme is considered a villain.
Yes.
Like when Yosemite Sam is playing a Hessian and Bugs Bunny is a Revolutionary War hero. The Yosemite Sam, it's like, oh, this is an American cartoon. Here's the American side. Here's the bad guy side.
Yeah.
So, watch Bugs. And then, it's just, and Gossamer, the giant red, monster. Orange or red? What would you say?
I think he's orange.
Okay. The giant orange, monster who Bugs Bunny does his nails in that iconic monster manicure scene.
Oh yeah. Monsters must know the most interesting people. And don't forget at the end of that cartoon, what is Gossamer afraid of? People.
What?
Bugs Bunny shows him the audience and he goes, people! And then he runs through a series of walls that all bear his shape.
I remember that. The wall that's a shape, by the way, leads me to one Disney character. I know we gotta eliminate him because he was way later, but it just made me think of that Roger Rabbit going through the Venetian blinds and leaving a Roger Rabbit shaped hole in Venetian blinds. So shout out to Roger Rabbit.
And we should point out, just for the sake of history, the only time that Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse appeared on screen together, or at least the first time it ever happened, was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
That's right.
And if you notice in that scene, they are essentially equals with one another. And I think that was part of the terms of their use, was that one not appear smarter than the other. I mean, they basically team up to make Eddie look like a fool.
When they're parachuting in.
Yes.
And Bugs convinces Mickey to be a little bit mean to him.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. Which is, that's Bugs being a bad influence on Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is a wholesome character, and Bugs is like, yeah, give him an anvil instead of a parachute. And Mickey's like, oh, okay. That sounds fun. I'm never this naughty.
When you think about Porky Pig, what is the signature short for you? Because I have one in mind.
The one I remember is when Porky Pig was going around the Warner Brothers lot. Do you remember this?
Tell me about it.
My favorite Porky Pig is from an old cartoon from 1940. I know he had a great relationship with Daffy through the years, and the two of them played beautifully off of each other. Daffy was an angry, irate Oscar to Porky Pig's fastidious Felix.
Yes.
But there was one in 1940 called You Ought to Be in Pictures, where it is Porky Pig and Daffy Duck, combined live action and animation. So Leon Schlesinger was actually in this cartoon. And it's the two of them, riding around the Warner Brothers lot, with Daffy wanting to be the biggest star in the studio. And Porky goes and helps him out. It is an absolutely bizarre little insight into this world, and it was so much fun. But this was before the golden age. Like there were a few that they made. The golden age of Looney Tunes was really, I think, like the mid 40s onward, because that was when they had the three units. It was Chuck Jones, Fritz Freeling, and Robert McKimson. And those were the three units that made all of the Warner Brothers, just amazing Looney Tunes cartoons.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Porky?
For me, the quintessential Porky Pig is a short called Curtain Raiser. It's from 1949, and it's him as a talent agent. So he's sitting in his office while a series of acts come in.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's got the tiny grasshopper who goes, I killed him in Cucamonga. And he has a button that opens a trap door.
It's just a parade of characters.
Yeah, it's really, the whole thing was just showing off how many different voices Mel Blanc could do.
Yes, and I believe he was the salesman from Walla Walla, Washington, was in that one. There was the two-headed guy who comes and he's like, oh, look, a two-headed act. And act schmacked, I'm the janitor. The two heads said in unison.
Yes.
Boy, I forgot about that one. That was a great one. Do you remember a movie that was a compilation film of Looney Tunes, called Daffy Duck's Fantastic Island?
Yes, I do. I do remember that.
That movie was, that's sort of a greatest hits movie of Looney Tunes. It's Daffy Duck and a wishing well and Speedy Gonzales, and they build a fantastic island that is like Fantasy Island, and people come and drop coins into the wishing well, and then they play clips from classic Looney Tunes. It is an absolute joy of a movie.
They did have, they did that, and they did a Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie in 1981. There was like a movement in the late 70s, early 80s where they were like, let's turn these compilations into feature films so we can get a little bit more money out of them. Because this is before like the heyday of home video where you would buy tapes or rent tapes and then later DVDs. So that was just
very smart
to make it accessible.
So that's where I remember that Porky Pig cartoon from.
I see.
Was from that. But then, once they had built these units and they were just churning out these cartoons starting in the 40s, we talked about Porky Pig, and Bugs Bunny. You know what? Before we get to that, let's talk about the others from the early years.
Sure.
That would be the other greatest, the counterpart to Donald, Daffy Duck.
Yes.
Created 3 years after Donald, by Looney Tunes. And, oh man, Daffy Duck. Yeah, he was much in the same way Donald was. He was a real jerk. But he was also a really mouthy jerk. And that may have been because even though he also had a speech impediment, his wasn't as severe as Donald's was.
Yes. Yeah. And there are, so many great Daffy Duck shorts. There's Duck Amuck. There's Duck Dodgers.
Duck Amuck, maybe my all-time favorite Looney Tune.
Yeah. I mean, the entire meta plot of Duck Amuck where he's talking directly to the animator and trying to tell him what he wants. And meanwhile, the animator is repeatedly drawing things wrong or erasing his mouth or changing his body without him seeing. And then the reveal at the end that it's Bugs Bunny the whole time has been drawing him is such a great encapsulation of their relationship because Daffy Duck is like unchecked avarice. He always goes after the pearls and gets him in trouble with Hassan, the genie, the Hassan Chop.
If Daffy or if Donald, if Mickey is who we want to be and Donald is who we are, Daffy is who we fear we could become if we ever just went, you know what? Screw it.
I agree with that 100%.
And that his unapologetic, just all 7 of the deadly sins. He is all of them rolled into one glorious character.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, the look on his face when he sees a bunch of treasure and his tongue comes out of his bill and his pupils get really small as the whites of his eyes get really big. It's so great. Just a couple of other, shorts of it. We talked about Duck Dodger. There's always, Robin Hood Daffy where he's Robin Hood.
Yes.
And Porky Pig is his Friar Tuck and is way more capable than him in every possible way.
Sure. He's Daffy. He's not capable of much.
Yes. And again,
but he's capable of everything if scruples were what we were talking.
Is there ever a short you can remember where he's also similar to Donald in that he never comes out on top ever, right?
No. He also never learns a lesson, so he shouldn't come out on top.
Yeah. I feel like there are more lessons inherent in Disney shorts because there's one where Donald is really suspicious of his nephews and yells at them the whole time they were getting him a birthday gift because they're such troublemakers. So you learn not to jump to assumptions.
Yeah.
The Disney is the cartoon that has, the world owes me a living. And at the end, that character, I can't remember who the character is. Is it a grasshopper? Why can I not remember? Or maybe it's Goofy. It might have been Goofy in that one. And then at the end, you
can't tell the difference between Goofy and a grasshopper?
Well, I can't remember who the lead character is in that short. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, it's Goofy. I'm sure whoever's listening to this that is a bigger animation fan than either of us is going insane right now. So I'm going to keep saying wrong characters.
Yeah.
So it's Donald Duck. And,
yeah.
But at the end, the character's singing, "Oh, well, the world a livin'." So there is a lesson that's learned, and there is no lesson learned in Warner Brothers, like you said, is pure mayhem and pure fun. So as we got into those like Chuck Jones heavy years of the mid to late 50s into the early 60s, where he really was the dominant animator and it was his visual style. I mean, it's pure silliness. Wile E. Coyote never learns a lesson.
Oh no.
Tasmanian Devil never learns a lesson because he primarily was a bad guy. He was another foil for Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, well, he didn't ever learn a lesson because I don't think he understood the concept of a lesson.
That's true.
Yeah. He's just mayhem. Like, they really just, with the Tasmanian Devil, they just took and went, you know what? Screw it. We're just making absolute pandemonium a character. He just eats everything. He just creates a mess. That is all he knows how to do.
Yeah. Let's talk about Sylvester and Tweety real quick. Well, you know
sure.
what? Let me go back to Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. I don't like the Roadrunner as a character.
He's not much, but a foil.
Yeah. I always want Wile E. Coyote to win. Whether he speaks or doesn't, I think he's such an interesting character.
Mm-hmm. He is, like, the Roadrunner's smug almost makes me root for Wile E. Coyote.
Yes.
Like, look at this smug Roadrunner. You know what? Yeah. Drop that boulder on his head. Sit on that rocket that you think is going to take you into the Roadrunner, but is really going to shoot you way past the Roadrunner into the side of a mountain.
It's true. And no matter how, like, the Wile E. Coyote works real hard.
Oh, yeah.
He must have a lot.
He is.
Where do you think he gets his money from? Because he orders a lot of stuff from Acme.
You know, it's funny when you hear him talk, he has that very sort of, I can't describe his voice, but he sounds very posh.
Yes.
So, you know, he must come from money. His name is Wile E. Coyote. Nobody uses their middle initial unless they come from money.
That's true.
So, let's go back a little ways because I'm just looking at the timeline here. Let's talk about, Elmer Fudd.
Sure.
Another one of the early ones introduced in the Looney Tunes canon.
Yes.
Elmer Fudd, foil, and arch enemy of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck.
Yes.
Super famous for the, rabbit season, duck season, but did many, many cartoons, with Warner Brothers. Singularly focused, not terribly bright.
And I believe he and Bugs debuted in the same short.
Yes.
And
he looked much different. He had a bright red nose. He was doing kind of a W.C. Fields, Emmett Kelly thing.
Yes. But then I think he still had his catchphrase, wasn't it? Which is, be very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits.
You're the perfect partner for this episode, by the way.
How is that?
Every voice, if anybody goes, which one is that? Oh, right. So, then Tweety in 1942. I don't know when Tweety appeared without Sylvester, but Tweety without Sylvester is just probably super boring in a cartoon.
Yeah, I think Tweety was a slightly different character originally. It's so hard because he's so tied to Sylvester that it's hard to imagine him without, but there were shorts without him. I think it was might have been more him and Granny. Because of course, Granny was the owner of Tweety and Sylvester, who would beat Sylvester with her umbrella.
I feel bad for Sylvester in those cartoons.
Yes.
Because Tweety is much like the Roadrunner. Tweety has this sort of smug thing about him that is really off-putting.
Well, he's constantly baiting Sylvester.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like Sylvester is being entrapped. I feel like Sylvester's being used. I feel like it's the equivalent of someone, putting a briefcase with a camera in it, getting a prostitute and getting you to go to a Vegas hotel room.
Let's record it just for fun.
Yeah.
Just for our own recording. Wasn't he also sometimes, Porky Pig's cat and did not speak?
Was he?
I don't remember
that.
I'm pretty sure that he was. In fact, yes, there's Scaredy Cat. There's Claws for Alarm. They spend the night in an old dark house.
Oh, the name.
Okay. Yeah. In fact, there is a short called Scaredy Cat in which they spend the night in a haunted house, where Porky Pig is completely oblivious to all the danger around them and only Sylvester sees it. So Sylvester is sort of a caretaker for Porky Pig. So he's got a duality to him, much like Daffy does. Sometimes Daffy is Bugs' friend, but also sometimes he's a foil. So,
I love Sylvester. That Sylvester he seems like the most complex of them, oddly. Yes. Which makes me very happy about him. There's also not on this list, while we're on the subject of cats, there's, Pussyfoot.
Yeah, I do remember Pussyfoot. Pussyfoot was paired with Mark Antony the Bulldog.
That's right. And I have a keychain from when I worked at, Six Flags. And it's a Pussyfoot keychain. And I'm very excited to get it because we were always late everywhere. So I didn't want to leave Pussyfoot off the list.
No. And those are great. That's another great dynamic relationship because Pussyfoot is just a cute little kitten who constantly is clawing on the back of this big bulldog, Mark Antony, who drives him nuts, but it's his job to take care of her. So he gets real annoyed. Like he gets real annoyed until he thinks that she's in danger, and then he's broken apart.
Yeah. These are complex relationships. They were the Marvel comics to Disney's DC.
Yes.
So now we're hitting, right around 1945 now, which is when a bunch of characters began. In 2 years, they introduced, Pepe Le Pew. Sylvester was 45, Yosemite Sam, Gossamer, Foghorn Leghorn.
Right.
And then Marvin the Martian in 48. This was when they were just churning out characters. Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote came around in 1949. And then it slowed down after that. But that period of the late 40s, boy, they were just churning out masterpieces. And we should probably speed up the process because there are a million of them. So why don't we all go through each character and you give the Reader's Digest, color commentary for them. How's that?
Perfect.
Great. Pepe Le Pew.
I mean, a fun character, amorous French skunk, falls in love with a cat. Yeah, he did seem a little bit rapey. Yeah, kind of not okay. A lot of things he could get away with in the 50s and be like, isn't this charming? It's sort of like, that cat's not interested. No means no, Pepe. Take a powder. Yosemite Sam. I mean, Yosemite Sam's classic. He's the rootinest, tootinest, shootinest villain in the Wild Wild West. And when he would get to swearing, it was the funniest. Oh, yeah. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of, the old man in A Christmas Story when he would swear. Yeah. You can't understand any of it, and it's absolute joy. All right. Foghorn Leghorn. I mean, he's a great Southern gentleman. Again, another character who thinks he's smarter than he is and is always like, good boy, but not too bright. And then he's got like the chicken hawk that he's got to face off against. He's got Henrietta. There are a lot of dynamics at play there too. Like he's sort of a protector and he wants to be the big man on campus or around the farm, but he also doesn't. His biggest thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, he's not interested in Henrietta, who's the only one who's interested in him. The hen wearing the blue bonnet and glasses, who's always knitting. The old maid. Yeah. She's the old maid. Foghorn Leghorn, to me, the reason I adore Foghorn Leghorn is his confidence. Foghorn Leghorn knows that he is the best at doing everything that he does. Sure. If you are mending a fence, Foghorn Leghorn is the best fence mender in the world and will show you and tell you how to do it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. He has experience, and he is my favorite blowhard in the cartoon universe. I did love him being thrown into the machine, which turned him into a hen, like put a girdle on him and lipstick and fake eyelashes and makeup. Mm-hmm. I thought that was fantastic. Bound up his mouth to make his beak pouty. Yeah. Now we get to, Marvin the Martian. Oh, I mean, the great, and, my friend Eric Bauza, who I first met years ago, is now the voice of Marvin the Martian. Really? Which is the best. I mean, he's a great guy and super talented. But, I used to have Marvin the Martian slippers and that. I claim this planet in the name of Mars. Isn't that lovely? I love that character. I loved the t-shirt. And also, Marvin's likeness appears in miniature on the Spirit rover on Mars, as well as on the mission launch pad. So the only one of these characters who is currently on the surface of Mars is Marvin the Martian, which feels appropriate. Finally home. Let's see. Ralph Wolf and Sam Sheepdog. From one short. Yes, but a great short. And again, a very fun relationship where they're completely antagonistic of one another until they clock out, and then they're buddies and they'll go get a drink or go have lunch together. It's a really, really interesting look at the sometimes complex nature of relationships. And then finally, Speedy Gonzalez. This is another one that's a character that you probably wouldn't have now because he's so racist. I'm actually partial to his cousin Slowpoke Rodriguez, who's the one who walks in and goes, "That's right. Cousin Speedy, you know where is it the cheese?" These are just awful, horrible racial stereotypes. Yes, but he is, Speedy Gonzalez is a mouse of the people, and he does bring food to the impoverished village. Yeah. And he usually is outsmarting, usually Sylvester was the one who had to guard the cheese factory.
Oh, that's right. Still super racist.
Yeah, racist, but at least at least they don't make him stupid. He is the smartest character on the screen.
That's true.
And the most able. He is a hero.
All right. That took one of the criteria that we have chosen.
Yes.
Characters took the bulk of the episode. So why don't we take a little break and we'll come back and look at the other criteria. That's the most important one.
That's right. So for the first half of the episode, that's all, folks.
Going into a Bullseye interview, I know that it's somebody who does amazing work. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about that.
Is that possible? Is
That's
that true?
possible? Yeah.
Should I check with your therapist?
No, but I will be.
Who are you, dude? You all over the place. I got a lot of respect for you, man. That's dope.
Bullseye. Creators you know, creators you need to know. Find it at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get podcasts.
The first ever Very, Very Fun Day is coming to Talia Hall in Chicago on February 11th, with media sponsorship from WBEZ 91.5. Advance tickets are sold out, but we will have a limited number of tickets for sale at the door. So come on out for a day jam-packed with 5 great Max Fun podcasts, 4 local shows, and a comic showcase. For more information, please visit MaximumFun.org/veryveryfunday.
I hope that wasn't the first half of the episode.
Well, in terms of one half being before the commercial break and the other half being, it could be disproportionate.
Sure, halves can be disproportionate. There's not a finite fixed number for what a half is.
Redefining math all the time. We got this.
Alternative halves.
Yes.
All right. So, here are the other criteria. And I feel like looking at that first criteria, characters, I feel like we have to give it to Looney Tunes hands down. I mean, you saw how excited we both got about all of those.
That's true. There is something to the Disney. It feels weird to discount Disney because they only need like 5 or 6 characters to match how iconic all the other characters are.
Well, let's talk about that then.
Okay.
This is going to be, and I'm going to say also one of our other criteria, was comedy. And we did talk a lot about how the Looney Tunes are just funnier.
Yes.
But let's talk about one of our other criteria that Disney definitely has the lead in, and that is legacy.
Oh, yeah. And there's no question that the Disney characters have left you don't get a Bugs Bunny watch.
No. This is a juggernaut of generations and generations of kids and adults loving these cartoons, loving these characters. And it created a giant, Six Flags has the license to the Warner Brothers characters.
Yes.
They license these characters and they walk around the park and sign autographs.
Sure.
Disney built its entire theme park empire as well as a cinematic empire, and they may have an actual land empire by this point. I don't know. They may have a ruler, a legally appointed emperor, and thousands or if not millions of citizens. I don't know. But Disney definitely has created a juggernaut off of these characters. And they're so beloved. It's not I don't mean to poke fun at an undue, and say that it's not a well-deserved, legacy that they've created.
Yes, absolutely. There's Mickey Mouse, all you have to do is see 3 circles together and you think of Disney immediately.
3 circles and you think of one of these iconic cartoon characters.
Yeah. It's not just that they're iconic. It's that there's an iconography to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they mean something that you don't really get out of Warner Brothers. Not in the same way, even though they are equal. It's not necessarily that one is so much better than the other. It's really, it always boils down to preference, really. But in terms of iconic, you can't beat those Disney characters. You can't beat, Mickey alone. if it was Mickey against all the Warner Brothers characters, Disney still wins.
Yes.
In legacy.
So let's get back to legacy in a minute, because I think that's what this is going to come down to ultimately, is the legacy versus the characters. But let's talk about, we have two other criteria that seem smaller in this regard. One of them is kind of related to legacy, and that is iconic moments. Do you think one edges out the other in its vast collection of iconic moments, whether it's Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd in What's Opera Doc, or Mickey Mouse in Steamboat Willie tooting that horn while driving the steamboat? There are both of them have created absolutely iconic moments. Wile E. Coyote falling off a cliff and holding up a sign before he does it. What do you think?
All of What's Opera Doc.
Yeah. In its entirety.
You can name specific moments from shorts more easily with Warner Brothers than you can with Disney.
I think that Warner has to have the edge on that one. I would agree with you 100%.
Even though there are so many great, the Disney shorts are great. And if you watch them, your memory would be jogged right away, and they're enjoyable and great, but there's so many more moments tattooed onto my brain. Rabbit season, duck season, as you said. Duck Dodgers, Robin Hood Daffy, the Pismo Beach and all the clams you can eat. Hassan Chop.
The thing about the Disney legacy is the iconic moments seem to come from the movies a lot more than they come from the shorts.
Yes, that is true.
I mean, there's the swirling tornado of, the Mickey Symphony is an iconic moment.
Sure.
There's a lot of Christmas cartoons with iconic moments. Chip and Dale and Pluto singing Fa La La together and then slapping Do Not Open Till Christmas over his mouth. Or is that just iconic to me because I watched that VHS tape a lot as a kid?
Because you love it so much. No, there is a handicap to this where we're taking the feature films away, and that handicaps Disney.
It handicaps Disney in the legacy department as well. Because much of that legacy, I would argue that at least a good chunk of that legacy started at Snow White, not at Mickey.
Well, if Mickey wasn't popular, then he doesn't get to take the gamble to make feature films.
Right.
Mickey was an icon at that point already.
Sure. But I just mean the legacy in general. When we think of the legacy of Disney, it has not all to do. I know Walt famously said it all started with a mouse.
Sure.
But it wasn't all built by a mouse.
Right. And it really all started with Oswald the Rabbit.
Right.
Just the mouse took off.
The other criteria we wanted to talk about was the music in them.
Yeah. I mean, look, they both have great music, but which stands out to you?
I feel like the scores to the Looney Tunes, and I guess rightfully so, because Looney Tunes came out of, was it Merry Melodies or Silly Merry Melodies?
Yes.
Looney Tunes came out of Merry Melodies, which were originally designed to be classical music with cartoons over the top.
Right.
And they maintained that aesthetic. As did Disney when they were doing Silly Symphonies back in the day, which was before the Mickey cartoons. So the way that they broke it down, Disney had Silly Symphonies early on, and then the Mickey cartoons were separate. And then there were the Donald cartoons and the Pluto cartoons, and they each got their own series. The thing about Looney Tunes is they always maintained that was a part of it. Tunes is spelled Tunes.
Right.
That legacy of the Merry Melodies, where they were music that was set to classical music or cartoons that were,
yes.
The legacy of it being classical music with cartoons on top of it that was created by Merry Melodies. I feel like that legacy led into Looney Tunes, whereas at Disney, they had their Silly Symphonies, which was very similar, but the Mickey, Donald, and Pluto and all of those cartoons were a totally separate series of cartoons.
Yes.
So I think they just didn't pay as much attention to the music.
Now, here's what's interesting is the man who is most responsible, who between 1936 and 1958 scored in excess of 600 cartoons at the rate of 1 score per week. His name is Carl Stalling, and he had worked at Disney on some of his early animations, but then switched. So all of that iconic music comes from him, and it's all borrowed from classical music, but had to be timed out to those specific animated shorts. So all of that, that's Carl Stalling.
Out of respect to Carl Stalling and his masterful work, then I think we have to also give the edge in this one to Looney Tunes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that music is iconic, including that. I mean, that's just so great. That whole theme is, that's the iconic thing about Looney Tunes. Even if you hear that, you think about Warner Brothers.
Absolutely. So I guess our question in the end is, if Warner Brothers has the edge on characters, music, iconic moments, does the legacy created by Mickey Mouse outshine all of that? It is that's not to say that the answer should immediately be no based on the way that I put it. It really could. It's an incredible legacy.
Yes. So,
but do we think that legacy holds more weight than the laughs of the canon of Looney Tunes?
Well, I'll tell you what, let's do, I kind of want to do a 1, 2, 3, or should we vote? Let's vote.
I feel like we haven't done a 1, 2, 3 in a while. I like that.
All right.
Okay. So we're just going to say Looney Tunes or Disney as the winner.
Yes.
All right. Let me clear my head so that the correct answer comes out. Ready?
Yes. You count.
Oh, okay. I didn't know which of us was going to count.
We're very polite.
1, 2, 3. Looney Tunes.
Ah, ha, ha. Yeah. People of the world, you knew this was going to happen. Disney's great. We love Disney. Y'all know I'm a Disney fan. Mark was a Disney cast member. He was the mayor of Main Street, for crying out loud. But there's something about those Warner Brothers shorts. They're hilarious. They stick with you. They're still as funny now as they were when they were initially released. And if you haven't seen them before, go see them. What island are you on? How do you get podcasts? How? I don't even understand how this is happening. You haven't seen these things. The Warner Brothers shorts, while the characters may not have the legacy of a Mickey Mouse, who by himself maybe outranks every cartoon character ever created, and probably does in terms of legacy, in terms of quality, how funny it is, how deep the bench of characters goes pre-1970, you've got to give it to Warner Brothers. And this was a golden age of animation. If you think we're in a great era now, which we are, there's tons of great stuff being made. Go look at what's happening in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s between Disney and Warner Brothers and MGM. So many great cartoons being made. But in the battle of Disney versus Warner Brothers, the winner is Warner Brothers. Asked and answered.
Wow. You feel good about it, Hal?
I do. I feel real good about it. I'm just happy to get to talk about them.
I know. It is nice. And now I have to go watch all of them.
Yes, immediately.
I think I'm going to start with How to Ski, and then I'm going to go watch Duck Amuck.
It's a perfect combination.
It's kind of a perfect day. This one is covered and in the history books and sealed for all time, but we have a lot more topics to talk about. So if you would like to add a topic to our list, please reach out to us on Twitter at WeGotThisTweets, or check out the Maximum Fun subreddit. There's probably a flame war happening right now.
That's right. You can email us at WeGotThisPodcast@gmail.com, or you can join us on our Facebook group and discuss everything that you've heard here and what you'd like to hear next. That's Facebook.com/groups/WeGotThisPodcast. Thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus. Great job on this episode.
Amen.
Graphic designer Uri Kelman and QA engineer Jen Alba.
And thank you, as always, to Mike Furman and Jonathan Dinerstein for our song and score, respectively. And of course, thank you to you, our listeners. I want to curl up on a couch with all of you and grab a bowl of cereal and turn on the television and watch Looney Tunes alternated with Disney shorts with you. And I promise we would have a great time. Thank you for listening to our show. For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin. And don't worry, everybody.
That's all, folks.
We got this.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Listener supported.